Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about finding your own path, your own way, and embracing the imperfection of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches, former HR professionals, and mums, Kirsty and Catherine.
We love to discuss the topics that come up time and time again for our coaching clients and which affect us all, from things like acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
Each episode ends with a question for you and us to reflect on. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves.
Welcome to another episode of Mission Imperfect. Today we are talking about self-talk. So, Kirsty, this was one of your ideas. Please do take it away and let us know why you chose this subject.
The voices in my head told me to.
Oh, very good. Very good.
End of episode. There we go. All done.
Yeah.
But
Mic
no,
drop.
those
Done.
those voices in our heads. I mean, I'm using it in plural. I hope I'm not the only one who feels there are several. But maybe that's something to talk about with a medical professional. But anyway, the voices in our heads, those are the ones we spend our whole lives with, right? It's 24/7. You don't get even a toilet break. They're there constantly. So it's going to have an impact, right? How can it not?
Mm.
But then how often do we actually talk to ourselves in a way that is nice? I mean, awful word nice, but how
There's worse, to be honest. There's worse words than nice.
it's very bland, isn't it? But maybe that fits. How often are we just pleasant to ourselves as we might be to, a neighbour we don't know very well that we bump into in the street, and we just say pleasant, nice, anodyne things, and off we go, and it's lovely. How often do we actually do that in our own heads to ourselves?
Mm.
And
That's so true. We don't often pay ourselves a compliment, do we? I mean, it probably feels a bit unnatural to do so, to be honest. But even like you said, if it's just in your head, even that, I think a lot of people we just don't do it. We can go straight very easily to the critical voice, can't we? But not really to the complimentary one,
exactly.
like we might do to someone else. We might say, "Oh, you're looking nice today. I like your outfit. I like whatever it might be." That seems to be so much more easily available to us, doesn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? And I mean, the flip side of that, how often are we nice in our own heads to ourselves? The other question is, how often do we talk to ourselves in a way that would probably be classed as abuse if we were doing it to other people? And I think the answer to that for an awful lot of us is lots.
Yeah. I think that's what's actually quite interesting, isn't it? Because your internal thoughts are obviously quite different to what you might verbalize and say out loud. So, I think we're often quite mindful of what we say to other people. We don't want to upset them. We don't want to hurt their feelings. So even if we might have a thought, we don't verbalize it and we move on. But like you said, the problem is the voice in our head can't escape it. It's there. And there it is, chattering away, saying things. If it's mine, it's often lots of random humdrum nonsense. But also, yeah, you're right. It can go to those critical thoughts. And even though it hasn't come out of your mouth, it's still in your head. So it is going to have that impact.
Yeah, and as you say, there's the humdrum stuff that goes on. There's the voice in my head that's going on. It's giving me my narration of my life, if you like, what's going on in the world and what I'm seeing and what other people are doing and what I'm thinking. That there's that voice which is sort of looking outwards and a bit like the narrator in a film or something, telling me what's
Mm,
going on. But then there's that voice that is talking to me and about me. And that is what I think of as the self-talk voice.
yeah.
The one that's
Do you know,
about
I
me. The
think,
one where you look in the mirror and you go, oh, God, look at the state of you. And you need to lose a few pounds. What is up with your hair today? And
we joke about
that's
this,
what
don't
it's
we?
like,
Like,
right?
permanently bad hair day. It just seems to be the only one that exists for me. But yeah, I love that distinction between the mind chatter. I think that's a really good
Oh,
phrase. I
mind
love that one,
chatter,
mind
yeah.
chatter. I mean, mine is incessant. There's always some kind of drivel waffling on out there. But you're right. It is about the external stuff, like what shall I do now, and trying to get yourself motivated to do something. And you, when you're making a decision, shall I have this or shall I have this or shall I go
Yes.
here? And you test out things, don't you? Test out conversations and scenarios and all that kind of stuff. But you're right, it is different to the kind of internal self-talk, which is about it's about you. It's like you put yourself under a bit of a microscope, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, very much under a microscope constantly. And
Mm.
it's a microscope that seems to be looking for all the the problems, the bad stuff, the flaws, whatever you like to call it. And I was intrigued as to where this comes from because I think although a lot of us would recognize that as almost the default state of our self-talk, that really negative, even abusive talk, I think that most of us are probably lucky enough not to have had an experience of being sort of brought up and having lived with that talk from others all our lives. I mean, we'll all have had some occasion of it, of course, when people have said something that feels unkind or harsh or that shows us ourselves in a light that we hadn't previously seen ourselves in, perhaps not necessarily a favorable one. We've all experienced that, but mostly we don't experience it all the time. And yet that voice inside is at it all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also, unfortunately, it might latch onto something that, something that
Hmm.
might have been said casually or as meant as some kind of constructive feedback. We can almost latch onto it, make it mean something more than it did, something bigger, amplify it, even sort of distort it into, something like an innocent comment of, "Oh, you could have done that better," for
Hmm.
example. I mean, but that's actually a relatively neutral phrase. That over time could be interpreted to mean, "I'm crap." Do you know what I mean? And that's the message that's remembered rather than the original one.
It's yeah, that's so true. And there's, the whole, you look nice today. When somebody pays you a compliment, says something like that, and your brain goes to, you mean I don't usually look nice? And that's what you take, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
So
builds into
you'll be
it.
damned if you do, damned if you don't when it
Yeah.
comes to
Yeah, you look particularly lovely today.
yes,
Is
that's it. That's
that's
the
getting
words you have
better.
to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that there's so much conditioning. I think, especially these days, with not just the mass media. I mean, when I grew up, there were newspapers and there were magazines and there was the TV and films, and they portrayed a certain image that we had to fit to. But these days, with the internet and social media, it's that's even more powerful, isn't it? You're surrounded by images and stories of how you should be, of what it is that others admire. And I think that can create a really strong awareness, or awareness, that's the wrong word, a really strong sense that you're falling short somehow.
Yeah. And even that's changed over time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And nowadays with social media, we're bombarded with other ideas of what we should be like, which I think I probably fall radically short of in pretty much every sense. So,
Yeah, there are
you know,
even more of
not
them to
age-
fall short of. Yes.
exactly. Yeah. I'm still not aging gracefully. I'm looking more and more knackered every day, I'm sure of it.
Oh,
But
bless you.
it's just, yeah, but you're right. It's what we sort of see. And even if we try not to, I think that's the other thing. Even though I like to think I'm quite comfortable in my skin now at my age and of the kind of person I am. But yes, there are still some insecurities. Like I said, like the poodle hair that I just can control, the eye
It
wrinkles that are
certainly
just,
doesn't look like that.
oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. But it's like, no matter how much sleep I get, it feels like you get very aware of these things. And
Hmm.
like you said, it's this sort of thing of falling short. And we do internalize these things and we can hold on to them. And unfortunately, because it's subconscious, that's the other difference, isn't it? I think between that sort of mind chatter of what's going on being very reactive to what's going on and consciously having these little conversations, as opposed to the self-talk that can just be happening in the background.
Yeah, the
It's not,
constant
it's certainly having
soundtrack.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it is having that impact that you said. Um, so let's try and talk about something a bit more positive. Um, what can we do to try and make it a bit kinder towards ourselves, Kirsty?
Well, I'm glad you asked. But I mean, actually, I think some critical self-talk is actually necessary. It's not in itself an unkind thing, is it? To a bit of self-criticism and reflection on sort of on behavior that you now regret, for instance, that can be really important, and it can be a kindness to yourself to help you grow and move on, um, become more self-aware. That's that's a very positive aspect of our self-talk and our tendency to see things in a bad light. It can highlight those things and allow us the opportunity to learn from them and move on.
Yeah,
So in talking about kind of self-talk, I think it's really important to say it's not about overlooking any bad behavior. It's not about pretending you have no flaws or that you can't get better, or sort of becoming the victim and it's everybody else's fault. It's not about that at all. It's about creating more balance and realism in the way you speak to yourself. But I think one of the first things that we do, I mean, I think we might be getting back into that whole thing of the voices in your head. Um, but when you've got that self-talk going on the whole time, you tend to respond to it. You're going to respond to it in some way, whether it's to sort of curl up in a ball and put your hands over your ears, but it's not happening, or whether it's by effectively kind of shouting back at it, trying to abuse it. Um, we talk a lot about our inner critic, don't we? The inner critic, the inner judge, and we make it into a harsh figure that we resent and try and push away. But all that's doing is creating a vicious circle of negativity and abuse and criticism. So I think the first thing we can do that can help make our self-talk kinder is to not treat it in the same way it's treating us. That sound a little bit weird, maybe. Uh, but I read something from Sharon Salzberg. He said, when we direct a lot of hostile energy toward the inner critic, we enter into a losing battle. We're
yeah.
just exchanging negativity, and that really doesn't help.
Do you know, it makes perfect sense now you've said that, because if you think of an argument when all that happens is one person gets inflamed, another person gets more enraged, it escalates to beyond what the
Yeah.
issue perhaps was in the first place. It's literally adding fuel onto a fire,
Hmm.
and it's an argument just leads to a heightened and increased argument as opposed to actually de-escalating, putting
Yeah.
water on it, the very opposite, which is what I think what you're saying effectively.
Absolutely, that's a great way of describing it. And again, just putting your hands over your ears and shouting "la la la," I'm not listening. That really doesn't help progress an argument in a positive direction either, does it? Um,
No,
so
it's
yeah,
an interesting tactic. I'm wondering if I should deploy that next time there's something I don't want to do.
it's tempting, isn't it? Um, so yeah, the first thing, don't treat it in the same way it's treating you, uh, and question it from something a little bit maybe out there to something much more practical and rational. Listen to the words that actually come up in your self-talk. For instance, there'll be things like, I never achieve anything. Everybody hates me. I always get it wrong. And when you hear those huge generalizations, the never, the always, everybody, just quietly challenge it. Is that true? Is it true that I never achieve anything? What about that test I passed? I learned to drive a car, didn't I? Back to driving, we have to mention it at least once.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I'll make a mean cup of tea because we haven't mentioned tea for a while. That those are things that you have achieved. Everybody hates you. Well, no, they don't. There is somebody out there who definitely doesn't hate you. And if that feels like a step too far, there are lots and lots of people out there who don't think anything at all about you, so they don't actually hate you. There you go.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
that's meant to be reassuring. May not have come across that way. So yeah, question the words that you're using, notice the words you're using and challenge them. Now, this one I think is perhaps the most powerful thing that I've done is reframing how I think and feel about that voice, because it's kind of linked back to don't treat it in the same way it's treating you. But if you're thinking of it as an inner critic, a judge, somebody who's attacking you, then that determines how you're responding and how you're feeling about it. But what if that voice is actually coming not from your inner critic, but from your inner child, from a little person who is scared, lonely, doesn't know what to do, is overwhelmed, desperate for love and acceptance and reassurance, and is venting all those emotions in the way that only a small child can,
Mm.
with a tantrum. That,
Yes.
that's what children do, right? Or small children and some older ones. But when they're overwhelmed and they're scared, they a child often reacts in that way, and shouting at it and hating it and pushing it away doesn't solve anything.
No, it exacerbates it actually, doesn't it? It's
It
exactly what we're saying. It's the fuel as opposed to the water. What we're looking, and I don't mean like to sort of drown them out either, but just
don't drown your children. We are definitely not
no.
advocating that. No.
But yeah, I think that's actually very true because it's actually coming from a different place as well, but it's just one that's misunderstood and we haven't perhaps tuned into because actually a lot of the time what we're trying to do is keep ourselves safe, but in a way that
Yes.
actually we don't need anymore. And we just haven't yet recognized that. And like you said, just trying to sort of fight with it. It's like that sort of tug of war picture, isn't it? It's just going to go back and forth, not actually going to make progress.
I love how you said that. That not feeling safe. That's such an important aspect of it, and that whole beating yourself up thing is about desperation to be accepted a lot of the time. That we all need that connection, that need to be part of the tribe. It's a survival instinct. And that the inner child who feels they're losing that or in danger of losing that is going to act up. Yeah, and that the shouting at it isn't going to help, but offering it some reassurance and some love, that can make a hell of a difference.
Mm.
It really can. And finally, be a friend to yourself. I heard this phrase recently, be a friend to yourself, and really liked that, because we don't talk to ourselves in the same way we talk to other people.
You
But
know,
what if we
when you
did?
the Toy Story song, "You've Got a Friend in Me," just popped to my head. But you know what? Whatever it takes to help remember these things, I'm hoping people at home might be just thinking, I'm not going to sing it because that people just tune off really quickly at the end of the episode.
Oh,
But
I'm
it's a good way.
disappointed.
Yeah, I'm not sorry, no, nobody wants to hear that, believe me. Um, but yeah, you're right. So whatever it takes to think what might be a more friendly way of looking at this. I mean, you can even perhaps use the voice of what would my best friend say?
Yeah.
And luckily, I've got the nicest best friend in the world. She's such a lovely, calming person, but she would also just call me out on my nonsense and just say, just cut it out, and
Yeah.
she'd be right. So that might be a tactic that I choose.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it goes back again to the fact that self-talk doesn't have to be all sorts of hearts and rainbows and shit. It's well, not and shit, you know what I mean. Um, it does it doesn't have to be all shitty, and it doesn't have to be all hearts and rainbows. It can be real, and it can be kind, and it can be caring. It can recognize that we get scared, and that especially if we're trying to move forward, especially if we're trying to be who we really are instead of constantly looking for validation, then that can be scary. And there's a part of us that will always be going, what are you doing? But if you reach out with love and reassurance, maybe you get to go along for the ride together.
Mm. Much harder to argue with as well.
Always a good thing, making it hard to argue, yes. And which leads on to some things are beyond your control, right? And when you when you can accept that, maybe it's easier to be kinder to yourself.
Yeah, I think humans do tend to think an awful lot more is within their control than actually is. I'm sure we'll talk about this another time, but it
Oh,
means we're taking
control.
response.
Mm.
Yeah, we're taking responsibility for things that perhaps really we shouldn't. Outcomes, all other people, all sorts of things that aren't all within our gift to do so. So I think if we can just sometimes accept, perhaps I tried my best and this time it wasn't meant to be, or whatever it might be. So, using the examples we've spoken about with failures before, we attend an
Yeah.
interview, we don't get it, doesn't mean that you were a rubbish candidate. Doesn't mean that at all, even though that might be the initial feedback and thinking that you get from that scenario. Um, yeah, there's a huge amount that we actually can't control. And also, we will make mistakes along the way, as we've spoken about before.
Yeah. And I think going back to the whole questioning it and noticing the language you use when it comes to recognizing things are beyond your control, I think something I hear in my head occasionally, it would be along the lines of, you should have known. You should
Mm,
have known this was happening. You should have known better. And she went, how could I have known? I know now because it's happened. But actually, the point, I didn't have control of how that would pan out, how other people would react. That's not within my control.
yeah. I think you've got something, haven't you, Kirsty, for our listeners that they might find useful if they're interested in
Oh,
pursuing these thoughts on
I,
kinder self-talk.
I do indeed. It's a little exercise which I have with great originality called the kind of self-talk exercise. Um, it's something that I came across through various channels a while ago, and I've seen it done in different ways. It's not an original thing. I'm not sure who originated it, um, but it's oddly powerful in changing that relationship to the voice in your head. And if you would like to give it a go, we'll pop it into the notes. There's a link to get you to it, and if you want to go and look for it right now, if you're desperate, it's on my website, coachingbykirsty.co.uk, on the resources page, and it's free. So give it a go. And I really hope that you find it as powerful as I did.
I'm sure they will. I think we'll try every week. If we've got something that we think is a valuable resource to share, whether it's from us or from other people, we will absolutely share those resources below, as we also do with our quotes and our question, which leads us
Oh,
very nicely on to our
yes.
quotes. I'm going to let you take it away, Kirsty, with your favourites for this theme of self-talk.
Okay, well, a quote I came across looking for this, and actually I found it quite hard to find quotes around here, and I have no idea who Brittany Burgunder is, but she says, one of the hardest things you will ever have to do is make peace between your ears. Once you do that, you're free. And I was, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, that's liberating, isn't it? Or maybe the point is, if it's one of the hardest things, and we're not suggesting it would be easy and you can absolutely just nail that, but it's having a greater sense of peace is surely going to be a much easier life and route to freedom, even if we don't sort of absolutely nail it, because you know we're very honest
But,
about how tricky some of these things are.
and we're not perfect, right? But the better you get at finding some peace, the easier I think it can become to manage the times that are less peaceful, because it gives you more hope for being able to achieve it.
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
like this one that you found, like a really simple one. Watch what you tell yourself. You're likely to believe it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's so true, isn't it? Messages that we hear continually, we are likely to believe more. And it does include the ones that we are saying subconsciously to ourselves. So it's definitely something to be mindful of. And if we can get more used to practicing this slightly kinder self-talk to balance out the healthier criticism that we might get.
Yeah, and that can even be about how we talk about ourselves. You know, we can very often be extremely self-deprecating in the way we talk about ourselves to other people. And it might just be, we're just being funny and we think it doesn't mean anything. But if what you're hearing all the time, whether it's in your head or come out of your mouth, is that you're not very good at something, that you need to lose a few pounds, that you don't look good, whatever it is, that's what you're going to be start believing.
Mm.
Okay, are we ready for the question?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so what word or phrase are you going to look out for in your self-talk going forward, and how will you respond to it?
Good question. So for me, I I'm very mindful that I do have this chatter that goes on quite a lot, but equally, you're absolutely right. There is the other self-talk that also pops up from time to time. And I think for me, the thing I have to look out for is when I fall into this not for me camp.
Mm.
Because yeah, I like to think I'm not a realistic person, Kirsty. I like to think that I don't have my sort of head in the clouds type thing. Although I did enter a competition that I was convinced I was going to win this week, and I don't think I have, which is quite it's sad
Oh,
news. I live in hope. I live in hope that I still might win it, but anyway, my point is that I think things that I want to achieve, I think on the whole, they absolutely are possible. But the thing is, I have to make sure that I also think that they are possible for me, not just for other people, just because they're not outrageous things. And I know that they are possible for
mm.
the people. I have to also just think, well, it's also possible for me to have those things. It's not just possible out there in the universe. My downfall is patience. I am a very impatient person, and checking in and getting the support I need to get there because we've spoken about this before, not in an episode, but it's a very different life, isn't it? When you move from employment to self-employment, when you're
Yeah.
responsible for everything, it's very difficult to nail it all yourself. And I think recognizing, which I absolutely do, that I'm not an expert in everything, but it's saying instead of muddling through, that I will ask for that support to get there. So yeah, for me, it's looking out for that. It's possible for others and not necessarily for me. It's that kind of thinking I want to keep more of a
Oh,
track on.
well, interesting. We have to
Mm.
let me know how that's going.
Yes, absolutely. And tell us yours.
Well, for me, it's the phrase that sort of came up with is "Who are you to?" And that would be things like, who are you to, for instance, have a podcast, talk about a particular topic, charge for your services, and then very closely linked to that is sort of the who do you think you are? Um, you know, there's sort of a stereotype of the gossipy old women going, "Who does she think she is?"
Mm.
And as I had a bit of a struggle to work out how to respond to that. And it was kind of going down the road of affirmations and mantras, and it wasn't sitting right with me. And then I realized for me, this comes back to the scared inner child. Um, and so my response is going to be more along the lines of, we're allowed to do this and we'll be okay. It's
Love
giving
that.
that
Comes back
reassurance.
to the self-belief piece that we've spoken about before, isn't
Mm.
it? That that we'll be okay.
Yeah, I realized that I've started to cultivate almost an image that goes with it of reaching out to the scared child, of, giving a hug, you know, taking a hand and come with me.
Mm.
We'll do this together. And it does make it feel very different in a good way.
Yeah, it's nice when you can put something, a sort of more tangible image. So whether it's my lovely song, "You've Got a Friend in Me," whether it's Kirsty's
And maybe I should get
hand
you to
reaching
sing
out.
it as the outro today.
No, no, that would be we'd have to ditch the whole episode, start again. We're not going to do that. We'll leave people scarred with my dreadful
And
singing.
one day,
But on a
listeners.
serious, yes, it would be dire. But on a serious note, do you have a little think, everyone, about your own self-talk? And is there something you know now from listening to
Mhm.
us talk today that this does pop up for you? Perhaps there's a certain word, a certain phrase that you now become aware you're saying it a lot, and you really would like to break that cycle. Do reach out to one of us if you would like to. We'll put all of our details in the show notes today,
Yeah,
because we do love to support people and
absolutely.
get through things like this because we have a lot to deal with, don't we? And having ourselves work against us just seems unfair, right?
It's a double whammy.
Mm,
You don't need that. We should be able to
no,
use that voice far more constructively. And we can use that voice far more constructively and kindly and move forward in ways that work for us.
absolutely.
Imperfectly, but right for us.
Exactly. So that seems like a perfect note on which to end today's episode. Thank you all for
Perfectly
listening.
imperfect.
Yes, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect.
Please visit the show notes for details on how to contact us and for any resources we may have on the topic discussed.
Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.